You know that feeling. You have work to do, deadlines to meet, dreams waiting for you, and yet, you scroll, you wander, you wait. You tell yourself you'll start in 5 minutes, but those minutes keep stretching into hours, days, weeks, and eventually, you whisper that word, "What's lazy." But, what if you're not lazy at all? What if what you call laziness is actually something deeper, something something psychological? This is the real psychology behind procrastination, and once you understand it, you'll never call yourself lazy again. Procrastination isn't about time, it's about emotion. When you delay, your brain isn't rejecting the task, it's rejecting the feeling associated with the task. Fear of failure, fear of imperfection, fear of not being enough. Psychologists call this emotional avoidance. Your brain is wired to protect you from pain, even the pain of disappointment or self-doubt. So instead of facing the work, your mind distracts you. It gives you comfort, a quick dopamine hit from your phone, a small sense of relief from postponing the task, and that relief becomes addictive. You're not lazy, you're avoiding pain, because deep down procrastination isn't defiance, it's defense. We live in a dopamine-driven world. Every notification, every scroll, every like is a burst of chemical reward, and your brain learns, this feels better than working. The psychology is simple. Your brain compares the instant reward of distraction to the delayed reward of effort, and effort loses every time. Psychologists call this temporal discounting. We value what's immediate more than what's important. So you're not lazy, you're addicted to easy rewards, but here's the twist. The same brain that gets hooked on distractions can also get addicted to progress. When you start, even just a tiny step, your brain releases dopamine for completion. You feel momentum, and that momentum becomes motivation. You don't need more willpower. You need to start small enough that your brain feels safe to begin. Most people think procrastination is laziness, but often it's perfectionism in disguise. When you say, "I'll start when I feel ready," what you really mean is, "I'll start when I know I won't fail." You want control, certainty, perfection. But perfection is the enemy of progress, and your brain knows that starting means confronting flaws, so it delays, not because you don't care, but because you care too much. Psychologists call this fear-based procrastination. You'd rather delay a task than risk doing it imperfectly, because imperfection threatens your self-image. But here's the truth. You can't think your way into clarity. You act your way into it. Action creates direction, and movement creates meaning. You don't overcome fear by waiting for courage. You overcome it by moving anyway. You procrastinate. You feel guilty. You promise yourself you'll do better. Then you don't. And that guilt, well, it becomes part of your identity. It's called the procrastination guilt cycle. The more you delay, the worse you feel. The worse you feel, the more you delay. You're not lazy. You're trapped in an emotional feedback loop, where shame becomes the new comfort zone. But here's what breaks the loop: self-compassion. Not excuses, not denial, just understanding. When you stop attacking yourself for procrastinating, you reduce the emotional weight attached to the task. And when the weight lifts, starting becomes easier. You can't shame yourself into action, you can only forgive yourself into progress. Inside your brain, two selves are fighting. Your present self seeks comfort. Your future self seeks growth. The present self says, "I'll rest now. I deserve it." The future self whispers, "Please don't forget me." Procrastination is when your present self wins, but the future self always pays the price. The key isn't to hate your present self, It's to connect with your future one. Visualize them, hear them, see them as real, someone counting on you. Because when your future feels real, your actions become meaningful. That's why visualization and journaling work. They make the future personal. They give your goals emotion, and emotion drives everything. Procrastination feels safe, it's comfortable, predictable, but, comfort slowly becomes a cage. Your brain tricks you into thinking rest equals recovery, when in reality, it's avoidance disguised as peace. The mind loves what's familiar, even if it's painful. That's why you keep returning to the same patterns, not because they're good for you, but because they feel known. Real growth begins when you choose discomfort on purpose, when you understand that the pain of progress, honestly, hurts less than the pain of regret. Every time you push through resistance, your brain rewires. You teach it, I can handle this. And soon, what once felt uncomfortable becomes your new comfort zone. You don't need to feel inspired to start. You just need to make it easy enough to begin. Psychologists call this activation energy. The smaller the barrier, the easier the start. If you can't write a full page, write one sentence. If you can't exercise for an hour, move for 5 minutes. Because momentum is born in motion, not motivation. Your brain rewards completion, not intention. So every small victory becomes a vote for the person you're becoming. Tiny steps compound, and over time, they turn into transformation. The final truth about procrastination is this: you can't outwork a broken identity. If you keep telling yourself, I'm lazy, your mind will make that your truth. Because the subconscious always obeys identity before intention. Psychology calls this self-concept reinforcement. We act in ways that confirm what we believe about ourselves. So if you want to stop procrastinating, you can't just change your habits, you must change your identity. Start saying, I'm someone who follows through, I'm someone who finishes what I start, I'm someone who shows up even when it's hard. Repeat it until your mind believes it, because when your identity shifts, your behavior follows. Procrastination isn't laziness, it's fear, it's avoidance, it's self-doubt wearing the mask of comfort. But you are not broken, you're just human. So, your brain isn't against you, it's actually trying to protect you. It just, needs some new evidence. Show it that action is safe, that effort is honestly rewarding, and that failure, well, it's not fatal. Because once you start, momentum takes over, and you realize you were never lazy. You were just really waiting for the courage to begin. Procrastination is often mistaken for laziness, but there's much more going on beneath the surface. Understanding the emotional and psychological factors behind why we delay tasks can help shift the blame and guide us towards real solutions. The misconception about procrastination: more than just laziness. We often call ourselves lazy when we delay a task, but procrastination is rarely about not caring or being unwilling to work. It's more often a coping mechanism for emotional discomfort, stress, fear of failure, overwhelm, or low self-worth. When you avoid a task, you're often trying to avoid a feeling. Why we internalize the blame society tends to frame productivity as a measure of worth. So when you procrastinate, it feels personal, like a character flaw. But procrastination is usually a signal, not a defect. It's the brain's way of protecting you from discomfort, not evidence that you lack discipline or drive. What procrastination truly is an emotional regulation strategy. Procrastination is often a response to emotional friction. Tasks that bring up stress, fear, or uncertainty become harder to start, not because you're lazy, but because your brain is trying to avoid negative feelings. This delay is a temporary relief strategy, not a permanent solution. A form of avoidance, not apathy. People who procrastinate often care deeply and want to do well. It's the pressure of getting it just right, or the fear of falling short that leads to avoidance. Delaying the task momentarily reduces stress, but the longer it's avoided, the more pressure builds, creating a frustrating cycle. Common psychological triggers behind procrastination: low motivation or disconnection. When a task feels meaningless or unclear, it becomes harder to get started. Motivation is driven by purpose and clarity. Without these, it's natural to push things aside. Lack of self-control? Not exactly. What looks like a lack of willpower is often just mental fatigue or competing emotional needs. You're not broken, you're managing more than you realize, and self-control fluctuates when you're overwhelmed or emotionally drained. Time management challenges. Many people underestimate how long tasks take or overfill their schedules. When the day feels packed or undefined, procrastination steps in as a way to delay facing the chaos. Time anxiety, worry about wasting or misusing time, also plays a role in making decisions feel heavier. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop negotiating with your fear. Start small. Start messy. Just start, because the future you're dreaming of is waiting on the other side of now. This is not about being perfect, it's about truly becoming unstoppable.